beautiful beaders, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I am back with another finished jewelry update. So this is where I share with you guys some of the pieces that I have made recently since my last finished jewelry update. And you're going to see a lot of different things from bead weaving to stringing, but mainly the pieces are going to have items that have come from the contents of past bead boxes that I have shared. I'm going to start by sharing the bead weaving pieces this time, and then I have a lot of things to show you that I made from the August 2020 bargain bead box. As you know, I'm not just slapping these pieces in front of you. I do like to talk a little bit about the materials I used, where they're from, and a little bit about my inspiration for the pieces, just so I can give you guys some more background on my thought process while I was creating these pieces, and hopefully that will inspire you and help get you guys thinking as well, especially if you have received similar contents. Before we get into the pieces, I am excited to announce that today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. If you haven't heard of them, Skillshare is an online learning community for creative individuals. They offer thousands of inspiring classes for artistic and curious people on topics including aspects of running a handmade craft business, graphic design, fine art, photography, and so much more. This month I discovered a class called Shipping is Simplified, an Intro to Shipping Products for Handmade Sellers. I thought that would be especially relevant because I know there's many of you that are interested in selling your jewelry online, and you may have questions about packing and shipping your products. So this course offers a lot of helpful tips and tricks related to that topic. And that's just one example of the huge number of classes that Skillshare has. Normally their service is a little less than $10 per month, but because they're sponsoring today's video, they're generously offering the first 1,000 people who click the link right below the video the opportunity to become a member absolutely free for 2 months. So take advantage of their thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback, and give it a try with no obligation. All right guys, so here's the first necklace I want to share with you. You may have seen this if you had seen the tutorial video I did. This is the blue version of the red prismatic Swarovski oval fancy cut pendant, whatever you want to call it. The red fancy cut gem, of course, I had shared before. That stone had come in the Poppy Fields collection from Eureka Crystal Beads. And I loved it so much, I turned it into a necklace and wanted to create a version in blue. So here is that one. And I show you step by step in that video exactly how you can make this yourself. It's all based on the prismatic right angle weave bead weaving stitch, which I also did an intro video on if you're curious about learning the basics of that. And then I formed it into a beaded bezel that hugs the stone really nicely, added a few extra decorative flares, played with a larger size seed bead to kind of give this a beaded bead look going up the prismatic chain, and then finished it off with some cord ends that are glued on and this hook and eye clasp. So definitely check out that tutorial if you're interested. It is one of the longest tutorials that I've done, just because this is a time-consuming piece. I've had a couple of people ask me how long it took. I would estimate about 8 hours from start to finish. And I worked on it a couple hours at a time. I did little chunks. Now the first one took longer because that was the first one I made. So I had to really spend time tweaking that design, getting the stone to fit just right, backing out certain things, restarting. So that one definitely took a lot longer. But once I knew what I was doing and had the plan in place, I'd say about 8 hours. But totally worth it, and doing that prismatic right angle weave is kind of fun to me because I can do that while I am watching a show or something else and kind of space out a little bit while I'm doing those sections of rope. So that is piece number one. Piece number two you have seen on my finger here. This is a Delica beaded ring based on the beads that came in the August rotating Beads of the Month Club. I did a video unboxing on that, of course. And this month they sent the Miyuki Delicas. Now the only thing I did add was the white AB beads that you see in the background of this ring, because I wanted to have some more contrast to the pinks and the green. If you guys are interested, I can either do a tutorial or I can put the pattern for this that I created on my website and offer it as a free printable. So let me know if you have interest in that. I love coming up with these even count peyote ring designs. They're a lot of fun. And here's a close-up look at that off of my finger, and it worked out that it is seamless, like the design is endless, so it doesn't stop in the middle of a flower and cut off. The size of it ended up being just right for my ring finger, so I love it when that works out too. And it's got this beautiful shine with some of those pops of the metallics inside of this ring. Speaking of rings, I have a whole handful of rings to show you guys. These are going to be in a tutorial that will be coming up. I already shared the purple version, which was this one. I've worn this one in a couple of videos, and this was based on the contents of the Serene Lavender collection from Eureka Crystal Beads. And I loved this ring so much that uses these little teacups and the little bicones and seed beads that I decided that I will definitely do a tutorial on that ring design. And of course, you guys know I have to play around and make a whole bunch of different colors. So here is a version done in pinks and green. I just love these little lustery rose gold teacup beads and that bright pop of pink. Here is a version done in black and crystal and nickel seed beads. Very classic look. And I guess I should pop one on my finger so you can actually see what it looks like on. They're actually quite comfortable too. Here is the turquoise version with some rose gold colored seed beads. I love how that came out. And finally, this cherry red with the green and the antique bronze with a beautiful red Swarovski chaton inside. And these are also done in their setting. So you put the chaton stone in the setting and then you can bead around it and come up with these really pretty rings. And also, I would love to turn these into some stud earrings. That should be fun too. So here are all 5 of these rings that I created based off of the same pattern. And I think I'm gonna call these the tea rose ring design, but stay tuned for that. Hopefully a tutorial will be coming pretty soon. Another tutorial, which will actually be coming Monday, is for the Vexillo and Vibe Duo bracelet that I made and shared before. In the black and gold design, at least, here is a version done in pink and a version done in blue. And these clasps are just something I've had in my stash for a while. I decided to go with some antique brass findings on these. But it's really not that difficult of a pattern. It is one where I suggest using 2 needles because it makes it more efficient and quicker. But the only other thing you need for this bracelet besides those 2 shapes are 15-0 seed beads. And with these, I wanted to practice putting the 15-0s in between the Vexillos at the center. With this one, I didn't, and it worked out both ways. I think for the tutorial, I will go with this design without the 15-0s in the center, but if you wanted to add those, it's totally up to you, and that's a look at what that would look like. The tutorial version will be in a silver and black, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that one. Here is a close-up look at the blue variety. Isn't that finish just gorgeous? And I love how the blue just pops with those kind of falling into the background. There's a look at the back of this piece. It's got a little bit of dimension to it. So the center diamonds that are created by the Vibe Duos, they kind of poke up a little bit, but overall it's still a very flat design and a very classy kind of Art Deco shape. Something else I made since my last finished jewelry update is this pair of Beach Dunes earrings. This is the pair that I actually made in the tutorial, and I also made them and shared them before in a crystal and black and a neutral tan and gold and cream variety. So that's a look at the turquoise variety to give you another idea of what those would look like. These actually go together fairly quickly, and this design was inspired by the Beach Dunes collection by Eureka Crystal Beads. I think you can see a theme there, but they really inspire me a lot, those collections. Now let's get into the items that I made from this month's bargain bead box. So I'm going to start out with a really simple but very functional design. And this is a pair of earrings that I made using the toggle clasp rings. So I wanted to give you an example of how you could use those as something other than a toggle clasp and something other than a necklace connector. You can even use them as earring findings where you're framing out a bead. And all I did was create a wire wrapped loop around the bead and then attached that to a small jump ring onto the loop of the toggle. So that is my first design, pretty simple. Here is the next pair of earrings that I created. These are definitely more of a statement. You can see I used those elongated crystal beads with the AB finish on 3 of these segments of the chandelier earring component. I also incorporated some segments of chain in between those. And I used the little dangly findings that they sent on the bottom of that fringe, which I think is a lot of fun. Now, these earring components, the chandeliers, were not double-sided, so I actually ended up taking them and put them back to back, just like this, and they're very sturdy. Since they match up exactly when you do that, it worked out, and now we have a double-sided earring finding that feels very substantial, but not too heavy. It just looks a little bit more finished, in my opinion. And you can see I also added some of these smoky gray colored bicones that they included as well. Here is a bracelet design I created with the rondelles and the bicones. And this is pretty exciting. I actually created the beaded portion on Fireline, and I did a right angle weave with the beads. So really simple right angle weave, very basic. Went back through it again to reinforce it, and then I took 2 pieces of memory wire and I actually was able to slip them on either side directly through those bicones, and it made this amazing cuff. It keeps its shape. You don't have to worry about putting a clasp on it because it just sits right around your wrist. So here's an example of what that looks like, and I would like to do a tutorial on this design as well. And besides that, you can see I just added a little crisscross design with some 26 gauge wire that keeps all of these beads and everything intact. It really feels sturdy. I would like to finish it off a little bit nicer. This is just more of a prototype, but it's not too bad overall. I would definitely wear it and you get the idea of how that all came together. So I'd really like to show you more about how I made that. My next piece is my favorite piece that I made from the Bargain Bead Box contents. And that's probably because it took me by far the longest. I kept having to take it apart and redo it. You guys saw these scratches on my hand before, and I fought with this piece in actual literal terms. But it's okay because it's all worth it. So you may remember that this component with all these round circles was its own thing. It was separate. And we also had gotten this teardrop framed agate, separate piece as well. You could use them both in totally different things. And I noticed that the shape of that teardrop in the center was actually very similar to the opening that this component had. So I tried and tried and tried and finally got it to where I was happy with it, where I was able to stack this agate pendant in the center and actually wrap it onto that larger component, and it created this beautiful frame. And I felt like after I had done that, it just needed a little something else. And the finishing touch was wire wrapping these bicones, one inside of each of the circles of this component. I also used some of this braided wire from bbcraft.com that I hadn't really played around much with yet, and I love the way that looks. And the other nice thing is that if you look really close at your components, the metal of the gold tone around this pendant is a little bit more toned down. It doesn't quite match if you're interested in matching exactly to the brassier gold tone of this back component, but wrapping them all together, it made it more cohesive, to me anyway, and it looks like these belong together. So I'm really excited about how that came together, and if I had additional components, I would definitely do a tutorial if anybody were to ask, but I will not take this apart just because it took me so darn long to get it together in the first place. If I am able to get 2 more of these components, however, I will definitely share with you how I did it. So then, as you can see, I just added this as a focal onto a strung necklace, just a single strand, with some of the gray agate and some of those white and gray glass faceted beads, and then finished it up with some bicones at the back to kind of tie those in. Also used some as little spacers. Also used the gold spacers that came in the box and a segment of chain as an extender with a bicone on the bottom of that as an embellishment. My next necklace is a Lariat style. I used the warmer strand of agate that they had sent us to create this one, and I will give you a full look at it in just a second, but for now, here is a little peek at what the front looks like. I used 3 of those leaf pendants or connectors as drop elements on the front of the Lariat. 2 of them are coming off of the loop of the toggle, and the other one is coming off of the single strand of beads. And it's really easy to get on and off, of course, being that it's Lariat style that just tucks right in there and becomes one long strand that is adjustable on necks of all shapes and sizes. And the other thing I did with this, besides just doing a single strand, is you can probably see that I separated the colors of the agate on the strand, going from darker to lighter and more orangier to more yellow, which is something that I think is kind of fun to do sometimes when you get these strands of stone beads, of gemstones, and they all come in a similar palette, but in different shades. So that was something I did to add a little bit more interest. And I also brought in some of these smaller round agate beads that I had gotten from Bead Box Bargains, which coordinate really well with those matte agate beads that they sent in the box. Also, to go along with these leaf components, I made a pair of earrings from the other 2 leaf components, and I think there may be one left over. But how perfect are these? The leaves actually fit inside the teardrop components, so I went with that. I mean, you could go really crazy with this, wire wrapping around it. You could add little crystals inside each of the leaves. There's a lot you could do with this, but I just decided to keep this one simple, and maybe it gives you an idea. It'll spark something off of this basic design. If you don't mind earrings that are a little bit on the larger side, I think these would also make some pretty amazing pendants. And I think it'd be really cool if you're into resin, figuring out a way to do maybe a clear resin with some dried flowers or leaves around that. All sorts of things you could do. So those actually go with the leaf Lariat necklace I made. And that reminds me, I forgot to show you this pair of simple earrings that I made to go along with the teardrop necklace that I had shown you previously. So I used the smaller teardrops at the bottom of these earrings and brought in some of that same agate and the bicones and the spacers. Something else that I actually did film a tutorial on are these very elegant, very dramatic statement fringe earrings. Now, I'm not a fringe earring expert. I haven't made a lot of fringe earrings. In fact, this might be the first pair of fringe earrings like this I've shared here, but I love the way they came out, and I did film a tutorial for this already where I will show you step by step how I beaded the fringe onto the infinity connectors, which they included in the box. I did use seed beads from my own stash, including the MGB or hex style, and I wanted to show you guys how beautiful the hexagon shaped seed beads are in fringe earrings, because they really catch the light beautifully if you're using metallics in particular. So those white and gold are the hexagon shape, and the cream and the clear are just size 11 seed beads, and then made the bottoms just a little bit more interesting by doubling up the seed beads on the end. With fringe earrings like this, a lot of times you'll see the top done in brick stitch, which is cool, but I also wanted to experiment with just looping these around a connector, and I'm really happy with how they came out. Last but not least, for the contents of the bargain bead box, I made this mask lanyard, a beaded mask lanyard. I figured, why not? This is a very practical item. I already did the tutorial on it, and I even made another one, which I don't have with me to share because it was a gift for my mom, so she's got that. But I do have a picture of that on the front of that tutorial in the thumbnail. And you can see that I used the agate pebble beads in this one. And in that video, I show you how to wire wrap these links together directly so you don't have to attach them with jump rings, and it's very secure and full of possibilities. This isn't only good for a face mask, of course. This would be awesome for a beaded necklace, anklet, bracelet, eyeglasses holder, so many different things. but they also work great for a mask holder, and those lobster clasps are very secure too because they are wire wrapped directly onto the chain and close around the loops of the elastic. The final item that I made was not my own design, but this is from the Potomac Beads Best Bead Box that we had gotten in recently. And I made the mermaid's tail bracelet by the designer Anna Taylor. I just love this design with the navettes and the magatamas, and it came together pretty well. Very beautiful and elegant design. I like the effect of the seed beads, how they make this little fringe around the navettes. I think that's very cool. So that is everything that I have to share with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this finished jewelry update. I hope it provided you with some inspiration and some ideas on some things that you can do with these beads if you receive similar things or have similar things in your own stash. And I hope you're also excited about some new tutorials to come, because I know I am. Forgot to put my ring back on. There we go. Well, feel free to leave me a comment down below, because you know I love to hear from you. Let me know if you have a favorite piece or if anything inspired you, or let me know what you created. Let us know what you created from the contents of your boxes or anything else you'd like to say. It's always much more fun to have you guys beading along with me, or should I say beading along with you guys. A huge thank you to you all for being here to watch this finished jewelry update, and also a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video, because that helps me to continue to bring you new content. Don't forget to click the link down below to be taken to that special offer if you're interested in trying them out for 2 months free of charge. I do believe they make you put in your credit card info at the sign up, but they won't charge you until the trial period's over, so just be aware of that. You can always try to set a reminder on your phone for a week or so before the trial period ends to make sure you cancel it before getting charged if you want to do that, just as an idea. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you'll stick around for much more to come. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And don't forget to check down below the video for all of the links to my social media handles, my website, my shop where you can purchase finished pieces and patterns, and my blog where I am sharing more information. Until next time, I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.